to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is a traumatic brain injury survivor, motivational speaker, hypnotherapist, yoga instructor, and the author of 4 personal development books: Beyond Words, Feel, Heal, and Reveal, Soul Quest, and Game Changer. Her name is PJ Victor, and my interview with PJ will follow the teleportation sound. PJ Victor, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, my name is PJ, and I am a girl who grew up with not the best childhood, but I wasn't going to let it stop me from being the best human I can be, and I'm kind of on that mission. And I wanted to be a writer. I went to college and studied English to be a writer. I've had a few hiccups of different things along the way. Wrote, everyone does it. We write down these wonderful plans for our lives. They don't necessarily happen the way we want to. Even though I wanted to be a published writer by the time I was 35, it happened just 2 weeks shy of my 50th birthday. And that's okay, because now here I am with 4 books published, and I'm just not going to stop, because I want to be a light to the world and help others shine their lights. So I don't want to just be a survivor. I want to be a thriver. And that's what I'm on the roll to do.
Before I get into questions about your books, you said that you don't want to be known as a survivor, but a thriver, but you are a survivor of some very real trauma. How did your closed brain injury back in the late 1990s and the loss of your pregnancy as a result of the 2017 Las Vegas concert mass shooting affect your life?
Well, I will tell you that the closed brain injury was something, it was a setback. There's always things that come into our lives that are setbacks and kind of knock us off the path that we think we're supposed to be on. But as always, I'm one of these people. I was taught by my daddy to bloom where you're planted. And sometimes we get uprooted, and then we just put those roots back down wherever we land. So for me, the closed brain injury, it was a unique experience because I couldn't remember things. I lost 7 years of memory, and most of it was my college years. So I struggled as a teacher to teach kids when I couldn't remember the books that I was having them read. So I had to read everything over again. So it was a learning process, and almost like a rebirth in a way of almost a decade of my life. And it was like no sooner did I feel like I was back on top and moving forward again, that the shooting happened. And I will tell you that the shooting itself was, I guess you call that the straw that broke the camel's back. I really had spent so many years just surviving. And to have that happen, and at that point, I'd already lost 2 children. I had 2 on earth and 2 in heaven. And then here I was pregnant with twins, losing 1. So now it was like this 3rd was going to come into the world and a 6th was not. And so it was like, wow, okay, I'm like wanting this hockey team and wanting this happy life, and that's not what's going on. And so I really started a journey about probably 2018, almost a year after my youngest was born, of trying to find out, what did I do to deserve all of these negative things that kept happening to me? And in that search, that's really where my first book came. And it just took longer than I expected. But it was really about finding emotional independence and understanding that life is a journey, and it's as beautiful as you want it to be, and it's also as tragic as you want it to be. And I made the decision I didn't want it to be tragic. I wanted I went back to that Sunday school song I learned that, hide it under a bushel. No, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, no matter what car accidents I have, no matter what shootings I'm a part of, no matter what sexual abuse I endured as a little toddler, and being sexually trafficked by my biological mom. Those things weren't going to define me. I was going to define myself, and I was going to keep a smile on my face, and every day I was going to make someone else smile.
You've written 4, now are they nonfiction books, all of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay, without spoiling too much of your nonfiction books, which are called Beyond Words, Feel, Heal, and Reveal, Soul Quest, and Game Changer, what are each of them about?
So Feel, Heal, and Reveal is my very first book that was published. That's, truthfully, it's my journey to where I am now. But without the he said, she said, I wanted to make it more of a guidebook than a journal. I didn't want to leave the answers all on the table. I wanted it to be a book where, as you're reading, you're healing yourself as you understand the journey that I took to heal. So it's really about giving the person who wants to read it, who is looking for their own healing, what are some key steps they can take. And so each chapter is that journey on how to find your own emotional independence. Soul Quest is my second book, and it's a lot shorter, and it's really an easy, less than an hour and a half to 2 hour read. And it was written for my oldest son, who just quite didn't know what he wanted to do with himself. And I wanted to encourage him and give him insights into how to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. Because here I am, 51, and I jokingly used to say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And that was even in my 30s and 40s. So Soul Quest is just another guidebook or a book you can read to get on that journey and lead yourself through some mindfulness and meditation to truly find what your purpose is in life and help that become more clear to you. The third book, Beyond Words, that was for my middle son and also any young adult, just like Soul Quest could be for any young adult, not just my son. But Beyond Words is for that person or that teenager, young adult who is really looking for a way to understand and discover the power of communication, and that having a conversation doesn't have to be scary, and that you truly can acknowledge the complexity of our human experience by putting down your cell phone and just embracing the nuances that are in each and every one of us. Now, after I got done with those 3, it came to my attention that both of my boys had been raised by me as a single mom to understand the importance of a first impression, whether it be in a job interview or going to a new school. And so Game Changer was almost a reminder to both of them, and then also became this playbook for all young adults, and maybe I would say someone between 15 and 35, on how to just really discover the transformative power of mastering the art of that first impression. Whether it's meeting your girlfriend's parents for the first time or meeting the boyfriend's parents for the first time, or like I said, going through a job interview, what are some resources to help you overcome nervousness and understand the importance of the steps that are a piece of that puzzle that creates the first impression and what's the follow-up afterwards?
The next couple of questions are going to be a couple interesting aspects about your books. And the first of these are the covers. The covers of your books have more of a romance novel cover-esque design and aesthetic than what some readers might expect from the covers of nonfiction books. Who designed the covers for each of your books?
That was all me, and I wanted to use actual photographs, but as I got into trying to set up these scenes of what I was looking for, I found out that having a graphic designer work with me and really listen to the words that were coming out of my mouth, that it would be better because this way I could kind of give almost a hint to what the book is going to be about. For instance, with Feel, Heal, and Reveal, I really feel like that woman on the cover. By the end of the book, I want everyone else to feel like someone who can just walk out towards the water and feel this incredible sense of freedom and peace. And with Soul Quest, I really envision my son and anyone who's reading it. You are kind of sometimes feeling like you're standing on the top of this mountain, looking out in this vast open space of clouds and wondering, do I jump? Do I climb back down? How did I get here? Where am I going? And so that was really the look I was going for with the cover. With Beyond Words, it's really the reason I chose the two young men on the beach is that is my middle son. And I think that it also, it represents any young person or young adult trying to create a connection with someone else. COVID was difficult on a lot of different age groups, but I really feel it hit the young adults hard because then it was like, how do I make connections again? Or am I just meant to walk on the beach alone? And some people may be familiar with the footprints about Jesus carrying us through the beach. And I really wanted to kind of give a little portrait of the fact that friendships can carry us through some difficult pieces and times in our lives as well. And last but not least, Game Changer. That's this latest novel, or not novel, but nonfiction. And it was, we love hockey in our family, but there's a time where you're supposed to be a player, and then there's a time when you're supposed to be more serious. So that cover was meant to be this dichotomy of a hockey player and then a young man in a suit, because we are all multiple people, but when we're giving a first impression, we have to decide which personality is supposed to shine through.
Another aspect of your books is, if I recall correctly, your first four books were published over a span of just a few months earlier this year. And how were you able to do that?
So I have found myself in a situation where my youngest son is visiting his father. And when he is, I'm alone by myself. The older boys are in college. So what do you do with yourself? Do you throw a pity party or do you make the time productive? So I sat down, I guess, starting in October, November of last year, and started to put my thoughts on paper and dream about what if I really did become a writer, what would that look like? And what it ended up looking like was 6 different books coming just boom right out of me. And 2 more are on their way, probably before the end of this year. But it just became this thing of like, I'm just going to put this out there and let the world see it, view it, read it, and decide if it is inspirational and motivational to them, just as how I felt inspired and motivated in writing them.
Now, are your books self-published, traditionally published, or hybrid published?
I would say they are a hybrid, but probably more self-published at this point. I have now contracted with an agency, but for the first 4, or the first 3, they were self-published. This 4th is more of a hybrid, and the 5th and 6th will also be done with this company and myself working together.
You mentioned you have a couple more books in the works. Without spoiling too much, could you give us a bit of a preview of both of them?
So I am torn as to how long or when they will actually, whether it be September, October, November, December. But I have been working on a couple different things. One would be, I've been in some relationships that are very narcissistic, and I came to realize through this emotional independence journey that I've been on that it comes from, or the attraction to people in this personality area comes from my own mother, my biological mother being narcissistic, and understanding what that means and doing a lot of research over the last few months. I have kind of split what I thought was going to be one book into 2 to just kind of help someone and guide them on their own journey to discover the relationships they've been in. Are they narcissistic? Have they been narcissistic? And how do you get out from under that and become a thriver rather than a survivor? Because it truly is a form of abuse when you're in a narcissistic relationship. And I also came to realize that being raised by someone who was narcissistic, it's hard to get out of that shadow of being almost as if your innocence has been stolen. How do you journey away from that? So I would say that one book is leaning towards being more about a journey away from the stolen innocence of being raised by a narcissist. And the other is more about how do you overcome the narcissistic abuse and move from a victim to a victor, being that that's my last name.
You, in addition to being an author, you're a yoga instructor, mindfulness mediation teacher, and a hypnotherapist. How do you use yoga, meditation, and hypnotherapy to help people?
So hypnotherapy and meditation and yoga can all be woven together as a therapeutic, holistic approach to helping someone who might have some things in their past holding them back from moving forward, or it could just be that they want to lose weight or stop smoking, so they want to release a bad habit or release some weight. And hypnotherapy is truly meditation with suggestions. It's not what you see on TV. It's not what you see in the movies. It's this calming of the mind, which is truly what we do when we are practicing yoga or practicing meditation. We're calming our mind and calming our bodies. And we're breathing, because that's what yoga is. Yoga truly means to be yoked with your breath. So they all work together as wonderful, holistic modalities to help people in a realm of healing. And that's what I want to do as an author. I want to help inspire and motivate people to find their own healing.
I apologize for mispronouncing hypnotherapy in that previous question.
No problem.
Okay, I have one last question. What topics do you talk about as a motivational speaker, and what types of venues do you speak at?
Well, there have been many, and there are many. I would like to say that, jokingly, I'm a Jill of all trades and master of some. So over the years, I have worked with my father before he made his transition to heaven about 16, 17 years ago. And we were helping to motivate people to understand personalities of the people they come in contact, to help them with selling and to be a more effective salesperson. I have also obviously been telling my story and the traumatic pieces of my life to give hope to people and inspire them to keep going even when things are tough, and just to teach self-compassion and to help people on a transformative journey when they are looking to be a better human. So kind of like life coaching in a way. But all in all, it's really just topics that help people find fullness in life, find their true purpose, and find a way to manage stress or foster emotional well-being, and then also find that transformative power in becoming a better communicator.
PJ, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were an amazing and insightful guest.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this space with me so that hopefully your listeners can feel inspired and motivated towards their own healing.
It was amazing and insightful to interview PJ. Well, it's great that PJ was able to get 4 books published in a relatively short amount of time. If writing and publishing at a slower pace is better for you, that's perfectly okay. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. Copyright 2024, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.